So today we're going to answer the most common questions that we get about match betting. If you don't know who I am, my name is JP and I've got Tom with me. Together we are the system and we've built a community over the last 5 years. We have 1,700 members and our members have taken over $50 million off the bookies. By the end of this session, you should have a better understanding about match betting and how it works. So the first question I have for you, Tom, is what is match betting?
Well, match betting, if you Google it, will tell you that it's using the Bookmakers promotions, specials, bonus bets to make yourself a guaranteed profit on a selected event or outcome. So in the most basic form, what that means is you bet on Team A and you bet on Team B in AFL, NRL, soccer, rugby, whatever, games where someone has to win. There's going to be an outcome. What you then do is instead of just betting your cash and your cash on Team A versus Team B, you use the Bookmakers bonus bets that they give you for signing up, or maybe you get one if your horse runs second or third, whatever it may be, regardless of how you get it. You use your bonus bet on Team A and then you use your cash on Team B. And then at the end of that event, you are going to make a profit. You're going to get the same payout for Team A and the same payout for Team B, but you've only used your cash on Team B, which then means you create a scenario where you're making risk-free profit because you're using the Bookmakers money or bonuses to essentially bet on the other side of the outcome. So that's what match betting is, just locking in a risk-free profit using promotion specials, bonuses and offers.
Yeah, so what's the difference between that and gambling?
Well, gambling relies on luck or chance, or you have to hope for a certain outcome. So gambling is different because in the scenario that I provided, we bet on Team A and Team B. A gambler would just bet on Team A or just bet on Team B and only make a profit if their certain team wins. Plus, you would lose all of the money that you bet if the alternate team doesn't win. Whereas in matched betting, you're betting on Team A with the bonus money, and then you're betting on Team B with your money. So regardless of who wins, you don't have to watch the game. It doesn't matter who wins. You get the same payout on each side of the equation. And therefore the profit that you make, it's the same if Team A wins. It's the same if Team B wins. You don't need a particular outcome. It's already locked in. It's just basic math.
Yeah, and is this legal?
100% legal. The same way that you just have to ask yourself, is placing bets on bookmakers in Australia legal? 100%. It's probably one of the most common pastimes currently in Australia. All you're doing is placing the exact same bets on the exact same events at the exact same time, but you're just doing it in a bit more of a calculated and smarter way, because instead of gambling and hoping for a certain outcome, you're then going to go and cover the other outcome and place the same bet on the same event that everyone else that's gambling would be doing. You're just placing it in a more strategic manner to guarantee yourself a profit.
Yeah, and you mentioned bonus bets. Are these something that the bookmakers give everyone? How do they work?
Well, in Australia, what happens is for a lot of bookmakers, they don't actually advertise this, but what happens when you join a bookmaker is that they will give you some sort of like first deposit match. So for a lot of bookmakers, it's between that $100 to $500 mark. If you put in X amount of money, they'll either give you 100% of that money or 50% of that money as like a little, here you go, thanks for joining bonus. So if you put $100 in, they give you $100 of bonus bets, which is essentially $100 of free money that you can use that method that I just spoke about earlier to start making yourself money. So that's the easiest way to get bonus bets. As you become more advanced or you start to understand the landscape of, I guess, the gambling industry in Australia, there are promotions that we'll probably speak about later that run week in, week out on sport and racing that do allow you to get more bonus bets, which would then allow you to make more money through some more advanced methods.
Yeah, and is it easy to actually do? Like if I gave you a bonus bet right now, let's just pretend we have a $100 bonus. Can you explain how you would turn that into risk-free profit?
It's easy once you see it. It's just very basic mathematics, but even if you didn't understand mathematics, there are calculators all over the internet or on our website that you can use, so you wouldn't have to know about anything and you'd be able to do it. Literally, you just plug in the numbers. But the easiest way to explain it is you use the bonus cash or the bonus bet on a sport non-favorite. Now there are obviously ideal odds ranges, but even at the most basic form, someone could listen to this and just do this right now. You get a bonus bet, you go to an event, so let's just say it's St Kilda versus Collingwood, and St Kilda are the non-favourites, meaning their odds are higher. You then go and have the bonus bet on St Kilda. Let's say you put a $100 bonus bet on St Kilda, and it says the payout of your bet is $350. You would then go to another bookmaker, so not the same bookmaker that you used the bonus on. Go to another bookmaker, you would place your cash on Collingwood, which is the other team. We're not gambling, we're not hoping. And you would place your cash on Collingwood so that if Collingwood wins, you're going to get $350 payout, which is what we're going to get from the bonus bet on St Kilda. You then create a scenario where if St Kilda win, you get $350. If Collingwood win, you get $350. You probably bet, I would say, $290-ish on Collingwood to create that situation, which would then mean that from the $100 bonus bet that we got and put on St Kilda, we are going to make about $60 regardless of who wins. That's essentially what match betting is. We don't have to hope St Kilda wins. We're not riding Collingwood, it doesn't matter, because if Collingwood win or St Kilda win, we get the same amount of money at the end, but we only use $290 of our own money to create that situation where we're guaranteed getting a profit.
Yeah, nice. We don't want to get too into the details yet, but people will always say when they come across this, what happens if the match is a draw?
Yeah, it's probably one of the most common questions we do get asked, especially when we post those videos on our Instagram explaining kind of, scenarios or showing people how they can make free money from promotions. If there is a draw, only two things will happen. The bookmakers will give you half the odds, which means if you've done it correctly and set yourself up properly the first time you did it, if you were set up to make $50 profit, you'll make $25 profit because they'll give you half the odds of both bets. There is scenarios where some bookmakers actually refund you your entire stake, so you get half the profit on one side, your entire stake on the other side, or you get your entire bonus bet back, which is a great result. But there is no scenario where if you do things properly, you're going to lose money, it's probably one of the most common questions we get asked, so hopefully that clears that up.
Nice, and it's rare anyway, like a draw in AFL might happen 3 times a season if you're lucky. NRL, there's extra time as well, so sticking to that. NBA, can't have a draw. NFL, pretty sure there's extra time as well in that, in most cases. So in most of the matches you're going to bet on, the draw won't happen anyway. But if it does, like Tom said, you get half the odds.
So people watching this potentially are curious now. They're going, okay, there's an opportunity to make money. It doesn't sound too hard. What would someone need to do to start? Like realistically, how do you actually get started from match betting?
Well, the best thing to do is to learn how to turn a bonus bet over and do it yourself. Because if you don't know how to do it yourself and you just know the theory, it's just a bit fugazi. If you actually see the bets getting placed and you see real money being made in your account, you're gonna be like, well, fuck, this works. Amazing. Once you learn how it works, you're gonna get more curious and you can then go and do more things, learn more stuff. The first thing you should do though is turn a bonus bet over and learn that concept. From there, try and get more bonus bets by opening up more bookies. And then after that, you're gonna wonder how you can get more bonus bets, and then you're gonna start looking for that information as well.
So before they dive in, how much money do you actually need to get started? Because it's all good and well to say, yeah, let's turn a bonus bet over, but if someone has $50 and they get a $50 bonus bet, they've got no money left, they obviously won't be able to turn the bonus bet over. So how much money do people need to start doing this?
So yeah, it's a good question because you need money to actually make money. You can't do this with $0. However, the first thing you should be doing is getting a bonus bet. Once you've got that bonus bet, that may require a deposit. So for example, a bookie might offer you, hey Tom, put $100 in, we'll give you a $50 bonus, right? You've used $100 there. You would then need money on the other side to hedge, like you just said, or to cover, to match the returns, to make sure you're guaranteeing money with your own money on a different bookmaker. Now, if you have not a lot of money, a trick that you can actually do is to split the bonus bet that you have on the first bookie. So the $50 bonus bet might require an alternate amount on the other side of like $200. But because you don't have that money, you might have to split that bonus into 5. So you can do a $10 bonus 5 times and still get the same outcome. So to answer your question, how much you need to start, I would say an absolute minimum of $100. But realistically, if you want this to keep going and building, you want to probably start with about $500. Ideally, 2 to 3K can then increase your ability to open up more bookies and move the money flexibly. The reality is you can withdraw the money after the first few bets result, and then you can just recycle and repeat that same process on different bookmakers, pairing them together, keep making money, letting your funds grow. It's just a little bit more tedious if you do it with less money.
Can people start matched betting and the focus when they start is not making money, but actually learning what's possible in this space, and also understanding the way in which the industry in Australia is designed to get them to lose money? So say right now someone has $0 or like $100 in their bank account, which you said you can potentially start, but they are betting their extra $50 that they have every single week. Like that's their punting money. So they don't have thousands of dollars in savings, but they have enough money to punt every week. Can those people start match betting even if they're not going to make $1 from match betting in their first 1 to 2 weeks?
Well, the thing that comes to mind is if you get bonus bets, you learn how to turn them over risk-free. So that is the most basic concept. And we would never give advice to randomly punt or gamble because we know the dangers of what that does and the money you're going to lose and the addictions that's going to cause to your brain and obviously the damage it does to your life. But If you still punt and you get bonus bets, which almost every punter would get if they were punting, turn those bonus bets over risk-free and you will put more money back in your pocket. For example, if you're punting, like you said, $50 a week and you're consistently losing $50 a week, but maybe you get $100 worth of bonus bets per week, hypothetically, if you turn those bonus bets over, you've actually made $10 because you would, on average, turn them over at about 60% at a low level. Instead of losing 50 now, you've got $60 back in your pocket. You've actually made money and you're still doing the same thing. So that is a way. I'm not sure if you're hinting at learning match betting without actually doing it first. So for example, if you start learning the concept, we have a free course, walks you through exactly how to do all of this. If you learned how to do that, I reckon you would start to believe that the punting is dumb. As stupid as it sounds, people don't actually realize match betting is real. And when you give them this opportunity to learn it, they start to realize that why would you lose money when you can make money? And I had a similar wake-up call when I was about 22, and that's how I came across match betting. I was low-level gambling, maybe not 50 a week, but maybe 5, 10 a week, and then eventually came across a bonus bet, turned it over, never looked at betting the same way again. And that has happened to thousands of people that have come across our community and learned match betting through that way.
Yeah, I guess probably the only reason I asked you that was that quite often people may see a side hustle or a new idea or something, and then they instantly go, well, I have no money, so I can't do this. And then they just rule themselves out. Whereas you can do a lot of learning and understanding. Plus, once you start to see it, like you said, if you see that this works or you understand that something works, it's very easy to sacrifice the beers or the punt or a few coffees next week, because if you know that if you can accumulate an extra $50 to $100 every week, and then you can go and get a bonus bet and turn that $100 that you accumulated or saved or whatever it may be into $160, like every week you continuously do that, you start to build out your bankroll. I just think that some people hold themselves back massively because it's like, oh yeah, this sounds great, but JP said if I don't have $500, it's going to be really hard, so I won't do it. But it's like, if you learn it first and see that it's possible, it might be very easy for you to then come up with $500, because you understand that if you had 500, you could turn the 500 into 1,000, and then you could turn the 1,000 into 2,000, and you can see the progression. But quite often people don't even dive into learning or seeing the progression because they think that they don't have enough money. So that's the reason I asked you that.
Well, the other thing I'd say to that after you've just mentioned it, if you punt $50 a week for the next 4 weeks, if you don't do that, you'll have $200, and then from there you can build that bankroll like you said. So, yeah.
All right, so people listening to this now have established they don't need a whole lot of money. It's very easy to do, you don't need a whole lot of skills. And even if you have no money, you can start learning it. Realistically, how much time would it take on a week-to-week basis for somebody to start match betting? Yeah,
so starting out, opening up a betting account may take you 5 minutes. Watching a video on how to turn a bonus over may take you another 10 minutes. Realistically, you can spend as much time as you want on this. It's up to you, but if you're just starting out and you have done absolutely nothing and you've never placed a bet before, doing what I just said will take you maximum an hour, and I reckon you could make $100 to $150 in your first hour just from going through and signing up to a couple of bookies. If you need a list, we actually have one in the free course we provided to you. Sign up to that, you'll get a list of bonus bets. There's a list of all of them, walk through 3 or 4 of them, make some money. Realistically, that's gonna take you an hour. You'll have that done as well. However, if you want to then start learning a little bit more, it may take you 2, 3, 5, 10 hours a week if you really wanted to. Once you start getting into the more advanced stuff, which we'll talk about later, the ongoing promotions, that's where you can stack 5, 10 hours a week. More serious people doing 20 hours a week. But just starting out, 2 hours a week, and you'll be able to make a couple $100 per week in your first month. So by the end of the first month, if you're doing it properly, I reckon you could easily make $1,000 just from going through the sign-up offer and doing absolutely nothing else.
If you spend 5 hours a week doing it for 12 months, how much do you think the average person would make? Say they've come across it today and they go, all right, I'm doing this for 5 hours a week for the next 12 months just to see where it takes me.
Well, it depends if they learn how to use the ongoing promotions or not. Once you go through the sign-up offers, or you start to realize that bonus bets aren't just given to you and handed out infinitely, that's the first thing that people ask. How do I get more bonus bets? If you learn how to use the ongoing promotions, the bookies aren't stupid. They're not just gonna hand you out bonus bets for free because they know you know how to use them and you're taking money off them. They then start giving you ongoing promotions. These are actually more lucrative than the bonus bets themselves, but they're harder to use. So if you were to learn all of those ways to make money there and you spent 5 hours a week for the next 12 months, it would be harder, I reckon, to not make $10,000 than it would be to make $10,000 if you were sticking to following the process, learning the methods, taking advantage of the promotions, looking after your accounts. We'll talk about what that means later on. But yeah, 10K at an absolute minimum. Realistically, what will happen and what happens to most people is once they discover how to keep making money from this, they get through their $1,000, $2,000, and then they start looking at what else there is. You will start making more time for this in your life, and your 5 hours a week might become 8, 10, and then your profits will start compounding. So your first 6 months, you only might make 5K. After your first 6 months, you're like, how much more can I make? You might end up making 20K after that. And then all of a sudden your 10K goal has become 25 in your first 12 months. That's what normally happens to people once they see how this works.
Can you make that amount of money with just like one bookmaker? Like I prefer to use Sportsbet, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass to go and open up. I don't know how many bookies there are in Australia. How many bookies are there roughly? I'm watching this, I just use my Sportsbet. Can I just do this on my Sportsbet?
You won't be able to make those numbers with just one bookmaker because you simply don't have the opportunities, you don't have the access to the promotions. However, there are 110-ish bookmakers currently at the time of filming, March 2025. And there's a list that we have access to in our community. You don't need this list to make money, technically, but if you wanted to get the most out of it, it'll help you to know which ones are better to use, which ones are more valuable, which ones you shouldn't do certain things on because they're gonna promo ban you and take your promotions away from you earlier. But if you were to work through that bookie list and slowly open up more bookies, what's gonna happen is the bookies are gonna send you more offers, you're gonna have access to more promotions, and ultimately why these are given to you is because they're trying to compete with each other, right? They want your market share, they want you gambling, they want you betting on their app. So to just have 1 or 2 bookies, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot. You're not giving yourself the best opportunity. So going out there and opening up more bookies in the right way will help you to end up making more money. And once you have a solid spread, 20, 30, 50, 100 bookies eventually, which sounds overwhelming at the start, it's actually very easy to manage because all you do every weekend is you just look, okay, cool, that promotion's there on that bookie, this promotion's there on this bookie. I'm just gonna work through these. This week I'm gonna give this bookie a little bit of tender love and care, make some money on that one, and I'm gonna leave this one for that weekend. And you can just recycle, and eventually you just pluck in money from wherever you want to once you get good at it.
If everything you're saying is true, and this is real, and this opportunity exists, and it's very easy, and you don't require much time, and you don't have to have much knowledge, and it's not hard, complicated math, why aren't more people doing it?
It's a question I ask myself every day, and I have asked myself this for 10 years. The main 2 reasons as to why I think this is the case is because 1, not many people know it exists, or 1A is they don't want to believe it is real. And then 2, which I think is the bigger reason, is that most people can't be fucked. And that sounds really brutal, but you see it all the time in our comments. We'll post a video where we show someone on Instagram how to make $25, and it will take them 10 minutes. And you'll get a comment saying, why would you just make $25? What the fuck's that gonna do? And that's the average human, how they think is that it's not enough to do it. It's not worth it. 25 bucks, not worth it. Or even $10, not worth it. But then those people will end up gambling. And because they gamble, then match betting can still exist because I would say less than 1% of punters do this, and do it consistently would be a tiny amount of people. So yeah, can't be fucked and don't know it exists. And then as a result of that, the bookies, because they're making so much money off these punters, they can offer these promotions, even though they will lose money to match bettors, they're making an enormous amount of money off the punters who are gambling on those same promotions. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the second part of that answer was what comes to mind when I think about that, is people would rather, like, instead of just saying, yeah, I'll make $25 guaranteed, they would rather risk and lose $50 to make $200 as opposed to just collecting the $25. But I think what a lot of people fail to see in terms of, if you do this risk 50 to make 200 for the whole year, you're gonna lose a lot of money. Whereas if you collect $25 every single time for the whole year, you're going to make a lot more money than 25 bucks in isolation. And if you keep going up and making 25, 25, 25, and you keep doing this for the whole year, versus the guy that goes minus 50 plus 200, minus 50 plus 200, like at the end of 12 months, the gap is enormous. And even these people that lose 50 every single time, if they just broke even, they would still be miles ahead of where they're gonna end up in 12 months time. And I think that's something that a lot of people, not just in match betting, not just in gambling, but in a lot of things in life, if it's going to the gym or whatever it may be, starting running, doesn't matter. Like, you can't see success, or you can't look at, yeah, I got 10 seconds faster, or I lifted a kilo heavier. They can't see that as like a, why the fuck aren't I Arnold Schwarzenegger, or you know what I mean? Like, why aren't I running 2-hour marathons? And then because they can't see that you could get there if you do all these small things over and over again, it's just so much easier to be like, oh, you know, slap this 50 down today because I could get 200 and that's gonna fucking change my week, which would be sick. So I agree massively, but I think the second part is probably feeds into it bigger. Yes, people don't know about it, but even when they start to know about it, like there'll be people watching this right now that are 15, 20 minutes into this, they've heard it all, ticks every box, and they still won't do it. So yeah.
The convenience factor of betting companies is far more appealing to the punter because you can literally go on your phone, like you said, and click a button and potentially you could win $500. It's like Tats Lotto. Why do people play it? They could win. And that's what's sold to gamblers, and that's why it's easier to do. Click a button versus, oh fuck, gotta watch a video, turn a bonus over, only make $25, fuck that.
I reckon we've ticked off most of the basics, and I think we should start to dive a little bit deeper into, if someone's watching this now and they've potentially done a little bit of matched betting, or they know matched betting exists, let's start to, I guess, answer questions that would come up at that level of matched betting and see if we can provide some assistance and some insights into the match betting landscape a bit more. So if you know it exists, or you've watched the first part now and you're like, okay, cool, what's next? These next few questions that I'm gonna ask you, I think will help people out that are in that kind of area or at that level of match betting. So you did briefly touch on it before, but the most common question once people understand that this works and they've started to make a bit of money from it, how do I get more bonus bets?
Well, there's a couple of ways. The first way is to open up more bookmakers. More bookmakers, you're going to get more deposit offers. So that's the first thing that you can do. The next way to get bonus bets would be to do it through promotions, where you can get yourself bonus bets without actually gambling. Most people think if you get a bonus bet from a losing bet, which normally comes from, for example, if you've seen most bookies on a Saturday, been doing this for 5 years, they will offer you a bonus back if your horse comes second or third, up to $50. This would be offered on, I would say, 30 to 50 bookies most Saturdays. Now, that's designed to make people bet on those markets. However, if your bet comes second or third and you place up to $50, you're gonna get a bonus bet. For most people, they need to lose that money to get the bonus, so therefore they're not winning. And people say that, hey, I only get bonus bets when I lose. There are methods and ways where you can get those bonus bets using those promotions without actually gambling, and then in the long term keep making money. So they're the two ways. There's another answer as to what I would say to that question, and it's not necessarily about collecting bonus bets. Bonus bets are fantastic, but you can also use the ongoing promotions and make money with more advanced methods that don't necessarily require bonus bets. And once you combine all of these things together, you'll realize that bonus bets are not the only things that you should be looking to do.
All right, so there's opportunities for them to make money from sign-up offers, and as you said, you can collect more bonuses from opening up more bookies, and then you can collect even more bonuses from using certain methods on those ongoing promotions. How limited is my ability to make money in this space if I've had a couple of my accounts banned? I've come across match betting previously. I started to understand that the bonuses were free money, or that those promotions were free money. I absolutely smacked them early days, and then the bookie banned me. I guess two-part question. What does getting banned mean? And then if I've been banned from some bookies, is match betting done for me?
So the first thing, getting banned, a lot of people just think that you are closed, you can't bet anymore, the bookie takes your money. That's not the case. All they're doing is they were offering you incentives, offers, promotions, bonuses. They're just taking them away from you right now. They're not offering them to you anymore because you're not a profitable customer for them. Bookies need to make money for them to be successful as a business. And for that to happen, you need to be losing money or operating in a way that is profitable for them, betting in ways that they know is going to make them money in the long term. If they identify you as someone who is risky to them, or someone who is abusing their promotions, taking advantage of them, they're going to be like any other business, and they're going to want to remove you as a customer and not prioritize you because you're not making the money. So what they'll do is they'll send you an email. Sometimes they don't even do this, they just take away your promotions altogether. You won't have access to promotions anymore on your account. So you won't get bonus bets, you won't get the promotions that everyone else gets. You'll be even limited sometimes. They'll reduce your stakes down to $2 or $5, depending on what type of punter they've identified you as. That's the first thing. Now that can happen as a result of a number of different factors. People coming in and just absolutely destroying promos, using every promo before they even do anything else. Bookie can literally ban you in hours in some cases. In other cases, it might take 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And essentially, the longer that you can delay this ban, the more money technically you'll end up making. And there are ways to delay this and advanced methods where you can set up the account to stay off the radar early on, etc., etc. We can go into that a little bit later. So if you've been banned on a couple of bookmakers, like I said before, there are around 110 bookies in Australia. We often get this question, hey, I've been banned on 5, 6, 7 bookmakers, am I done? The answer is no, and a big no, because like I said, there's 110 bookmakers, and if you know how to use each of them and know how to combine them all together and share the load, your match betting journey is not anywhere near over. If anything, people who have already opened accounts and aren't banned are actually going to have more opportunity to make money, especially if you come from a gambling background. You actually have more opportunity to make money because, yes, you're not going to get the sign-up offer, but because you have history that the bookmaker likes, you technically may have your accounts open for longer. On the accounts that you have got banned, of course, you can't take advantage of promotions anymore. Once they're banned, 99% of the time you're done. You're not going to get the promotions back. But on the other bookies that you currently don't have open, there's still the equal amount of opportunity as anyone else starting out.
Yeah, I think that's an important point to remind people of, is like, if you've already been betting on accounts and you aren't banned, bookmakers are a business, right? So just like if somebody joined our business or somebody joined any other business online, the business wants to get to know the person that's using their product or service. So when you join a bookmaker, especially a bookmaker, because there's going to be certain types of customers, members, whatever you want to call them, that are going to be really, really lucrative for the bookmaker, and there are going to be some types of customers that the bookmaker just simply doesn't want. Now, this isn't always the case, but the bookmaker can control who does and doesn't use their product and service. Most of the times businesses can do this, but it's so important for a bookmaker because two reasons really. If they identify you early days as someone that they see as a lucrative customer or that they want on their app, they are going to encourage you to keep betting, and they're going to give you all these frills and all of these great things because they want an environment where you feel like, oh, this is so great. I love using Bookmaker A. So I'm going to keep using Bookmaker A. And that's what they're trying to do. But the reverse happens, and you just kind of touched on it. If you just jump in there and do every single thing that a bookmaker looks at you and goes, we do not want this guy betting on our app. He just used all of our promotions. He just rinsed our bonus bets. He's not doing any betting that looks like he is a mug at all. Mug being someone that's going to be losing the majority of the market. If a bookmaker sees that, they're just going to go, well, we're not going to make money off this guy, and actually we're going to lose money if this guy keeps betting this way, so we don't want him on our app at all. The fact that you touched on that, because if you've been betting and you had no idea match betting existed, and you're doing some bets here or there for the last couple of years on your sports bet, on your tab, maybe on your Ladbrokes, you've already been profiled by the bookmaker as potentially someone who they're going to make money off. So they're not too worried about you right now, which is fantastic, which, as you said, provides an opportunity because you already have established accounts with an established track record that the bookmaker has recognized is, this is good for us. We want this guy betting on our app or this girl betting on our app because their patterns or the ways in which they're going about things suggest they're going to be profitable for us. We want to keep them. So you've already done the legwork without even realizing, and there is an opportunity for you now, if you shift your way of thinking, to use potentially what was a negative for you previously. You would have been losing money, otherwise the bookmaker won't allow you to keep betting. You can use that as an advantage moving forward, and we often say in some of our videos that if you have heavily losing accounts or accounts that have been open for ages, they are actually gold mines, and they are more valuable than a brand new account because you've already been profiled. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Maybe a gambler is listening to this. What sort of bets does the bookmaker like the most?
Well, there's a lot of bets that the bookmaker likes. I think it's more around the habits, I would say, or the overall, kind of what does their group of transactions look like. So somebody that's very calculated probably bets the same amount every single time. And they probably only bet on certain markets where that certain bookmaker has better odds than a lot of the other bookmakers in the market. Like, there are quite easy ways for a bookmaker to jump into an account and go, this guy's very strategic. This guy's betting the same amount every time. This guy's very calculated. He always seems to be taking when we have the best odds. All of these little things, right? Every time he uses a bonus bet, it's on a non-favorite paying X amount of money, right? Bookmaker can see this. They can also see that the second this guy jumped in, he bet $20, and then he's bet one, and then his next bet was $40, and then that one, and his next bet was $100, or he jumped in and he put 50 bucks in that loss, and then he jumped in and he put 100 bucks in, and then he bet $100. All of these like erratic emotional behaviors that potentially you don't even recognize that you're doing yourself. The bookmaker knows this, and they can profile this. They might also notice that every time you bet on horse racing, when you bet on a horse, you say you're using your sports bet account and you're betting on Joe Blow horse, and Sportsbet know that they've got Joe Blow, they've got the worst odds in the whole market for Joe Blow horse, right? And this guy's betting on that horse. So they're going, oh, this is fantastic. This guy's got no idea what he's doing. He's betting on our app. He's betting on horses that we know are lower prices than the whole rest of the market. We want this guy to keep betting. This is fantastic. Or the last time we offered him a $100 deposit match, we said, hey, put $100 in, you get a $100 bonus. He deposited within 8 minutes and he bet his $100 bonus on a big multi, and then he bet his $100 cash on a short favorite and it lost. And then he put more money in again. And they can recognize these behaviors and these types of patterns and these bets, and they're like, we want this or we don't want this. So what are they looking for? Erratic behavior, changes in staking, emotion-fueled decisions. Now they're not sitting with you, but your patterns and your behaviors can suggest that you are being emotional, and just betting on the wrong shit. And that might sound cryptic, but once you understand the way the market is set up and the odds are set up and the way in which you can look at the market and find the right odds, if you're not doing any of that, you would be making these mistakes, or you would be betting in these patterns, and it would be so obvious to the bookmaker, and that's obviously what they're looking for and trying to encourage. The reverse side, as I said, if you're calculated, if you're consistently staking, or you're consistently winning the same amount, or you're betting on the odds that potentially the bookmaker have been slow to change, whatever it may be, using your bonuses in this certain way all the time, the bookmaker will eventually work that out and go, no, I do not want this guy betting, because he's either not losing enough, which could be the first thing. This is the other thing, right? You don't even have to be certainly profiting. Like Ladbrokes have gone on record saying if you don't lose at least 6% of the total amount of money that you're betting, you're not going to be a profitable customer to them. So you might only be losing 2 or 3%. They still might ban you or promotionally ban you because they're not making enough money off you. But it is easy for bookies to identify that. And I guess you kind of touched on it earlier in terms of like, we might dive a bit deeper into what I've probably just discussed.
Sorry to interrupt. If you haven't started our free course, just a reminder, you can find that in the description of this video. The free course goes for an hour. It'll show you exactly how you can make your first $1,000 from match betting. After that, you can ask questions, book a free call in, or you get back to the video, but just know that there's a free course link in the description. Cheers. I have a question again. When you say all of those things, is the bookmaker sitting there watching every account, or are they having, how do they know all of this is happening? And is every bookmaker the same?
Every bookmaker is not the same. I would say a lot of the smaller bookmakers potentially would, especially your first 5 or 10 bets, maybe they would honestly monitor it. They're not going to have hundreds of thousands of customers or even thousands of customers, and they don't have the ability to let a few things slide like a sports bet or a tab, because if they let all of these smarter punters, match bettors, whatever you want to call them, onto their site and rinse them for money pretty quickly, that can destroy them as a business. So smaller bookies would probably monitor it a lot closer than Sportsbet. There's not someone at Sportsbet, if you sign up today, there is not someone at Sportsbet sitting there going, all right, I'm watching Tom's first 10 bets. It's just simply not possible. They just work on mass volume, but they would have algorithms, and they would have, they'd be tracking data or your behavior based on like, what is the, as I spoke about before, maybe what are the odds that this guy's taking? They might be able to track that in the background, but they're not sitting there watching it. Smaller bookies would for sure, because every bookie's different, right? And on our bookie list, not that we're pumping anything, but Greenie spends a lot of time and effort working out what certain bookmakers like and what they don't like. So some bookies hate you betting on sport. They just simply hate it. They don't invest the time and energy into sport. If you're smacking their sport because they're slow to move their odds, they're going to turn you off. They don't like it. There would be other bookmakers that don't like you smoking racing bets, like having whatever bets on horses to potentially win more than $500, and if they see that over and over again, they go, no, this is too risky, this is scary for us, this guy knows what he's doing, and they'll turn you off. So it's different for every single bookmaker. I would say majority are not watching every single bet that you place, but almost all of them would be able to identify someone that is a smart punter or betting the wrong way very quickly, easily within the first week. Some, as you said, within the first few hours for sure. We keep throwing this ban word around, and for people that aren't familiar with what that means, can sound a little bit scary. I remember Stella first asked me before she jumped in, literally like, if I get banned, does this mean that the bookie takes all my money? What actually is a ban? Like, how bad is it? Is it scary?
No, nothing happens. You will just get notified that you cannot use the promotions anymore. That's it. And sometimes they don't even notify you, and you might just find out because you place a bet on a promotion and then you don't get a bonus back, for example, that you should have. And then you're like, well, where's my promotions gone? That's all it is.
So you don't lose your money?
No, they don't take your money. What can happen to people, and this is something that we've seen over the last few years especially, is they might ask for an additional verification. So if they do ask for this, they might ask for a bank statement to prove you are who you are, or send a license photo in. All they're doing is just sticking to normal KYC, know your customer rules in Australia, to verify that you are a real person, because to bet on betting apps, you need to be a real person. You need to be the person operating the account. And if you're not, well, they have license, and they don't take the money, but they have the right to hold the money in their whatever holding account until they prove, or you prove, that you are the person operating the account. Now, some people get into these positions and they actually get scared off by this, but all they're doing, it's like if you were to sign up with a credit card company or with MyGov or anything like that, you're just asked to verify your account with a bank. You have to go in there, show your passport. You don't have to actually go into the bookmaker. In this case, you send it in, but they're just asking to verify you. In extreme cases, they'll ask you to go and sign a stat deck, but this is like super rare, to prove that it's actually you. But yes, they cannot take your money. It's not scary, it's just normal operating procedure. Getting banned if you are match betting is going to be something that is going to happen to you. Promo banned, for sure, over 110 bookies. If you are making money, you are going to cop bans. These are normal. It's just about how fast and how long you can delay these bans from happening.
So if you're gonna get banned then, can you avoid it at all? Can you prolong your account? Like, I'm sitting here listening to that now going, all right, you told me how great match betting is, I can make all this money, but now you've said I'm gonna get banned. So like, am I done?
For sure, this is a great question, and this is something that our community has focused on massively over the past 5 years and specialized in. A lot of people who come across match betting, as soon as they come across it, they get excited and want to make as much money as possible, right? This is the normal human being instinct, is like, I've discovered a gold mine, make me as much money as possible. I literally did this when I came across match betting. I made money really quickly, got my accounts banned really quickly, and then learnt through my mistakes what not to do. So over the years, there's ways in which we've learned how to stay off the bookie's radar, learning about how each bookie is different, learning about ways in which the bookmaker looks at your account at the start. So let's go back and simplify this and make it, like you said before, the bookmaker is profiling you when you first open an account. So for example, a couple of free tips that you could do is you wouldn't be using any promotions in the first week of using your account. I wouldn't be just placing promo bets before starting my accounts and using promotions. I'd be doing some dummy bets, non-promo bets, bets off the promotions. Now, that doesn't mean you gamble. There are ways in which you can cash bet to make sure that the bookie thinks that you're gambling, because they don't see the bet on the other bookmaker, they just see this one. And if you place 5, 10, 15 of these when you're starting out your account before you start using the lucrative promos, and you're just sprinkling these in there and you're not actually just using promo, you're spreading the load across more bookies, ultimately you're going to keep your accounts open for longer, which means you're going to make more money. Now, people will say that that is a waste of time and you can just make more money in the short term, and that's fine. If you were to do the wrong stuff and just go hammer and make as much money as possible with the promotions, you will make way more money in the short term, 100%. You can make 10 to 20K, I reckon, in your first 6 to 12 months, easily. However, you won't have many accounts left. So I guess when you come across match betting, it's up to you. Now that you know this, you can have a choice. You can go and make money for free, get the bonus bets, start abusing the promotions once you know how to use them, and then get your accounts banned really quick. Or you can take a middle ground approach or a more conservative approach where you can learn a couple of things. Now, I talked about not using promos in the first week or two. I talked about sprinkling in non-promo bets as well. There are also ways in which you can bet in the behaviors that Tom said before, while not gambling, which sounds a little bit more complex, but you can identify yourself as a gambler without being a gambler, and you can stay off the radar a little bit more using some tactics and advanced strategies. Not sure if you want me to go into those, but some of the things that I would talk about would be how you're using the promotions, whether you're hammering the $50 stake that is capped on every time, or whether you're using every single promotion on that bookie for a Saturday, or whether you're using every single same game multi-bonus back promotion, or whatever it is. These are some of the things that the bookie's going to look at, and the best advice that I could give you is to not hammer one bookie and to spread the load across more bookies. So having more bookies open allows you to spread the load. So a few different pointers there. Hopefully that helps.
We are in the intermediate section, I guess, of this video. So I would say a lot of people who are at this current level would have got a lot out of that, but they would also be using a thing called, or a service or a website called Betfair. Now, we haven't spoken about Betfair in this whole video at all. So for the beginners or the people that don't know what Betfair is, have never used it, never heard of it, what is Betfair?
Yeah, Betfair is an exchange where you can back and lay bets. Now, lay would have been the first time you've heard of that word in this podcast. So I'm going to explain what that means. Essentially, the way Betfair is different is it is an exchange. It is not a bookmaker that is taking your bets. And how Betfair work is you are betting against somebody else's bet. So when you back or lay, I'll talk about what lay is in a second, but when you back something, somebody else has to take the opposite side of that bet for that bet to be matched, and if it doesn't, it's not a bet. Whereas on a bookmaker, you're betting against the bookmaker. Now, let's talk about a lay bet. A lay bet is you are betting on something not to win. So I could lay, let's just say Tom is in a race right now and there are 10 people in a 100-meter sprint. And I don't think Tom's gonna win that race, so I put a lay bet on him. Now, that means that if Tom doesn't win the race, I win the bet. So if I put $10 on Tom not to win the race, I lay him, and he doesn't win the race, I win the bet. And if he wins the race, I lose the bet. We learned how to turn a bonus bet over on a 2 sporting outcome before. Tom talked about backing one team with a bonus, backing the other team with cash on a different bookmaker, make sure the return's the same, guaranteed profit. Why lay betting is really good is because you can go into a horse race and you can put a bonus bet on a bookmaker, on a horse, and then you can go on Betfair and lay the horse, not to win, and now you've created an opportunity where one of them has to win, one of them has to lose. And the best part about this is now you can get more money from your bonus bets. You can get closer towards 80% and above from your bonus bets as opposed to 60% where we spoke about on sport before. So that's massively lucrative. You can also do this with cash bets. So with some defense and sustainability, we like to call that, to avoid bans, you can now use horse racing to actually bet on non-promotional markets to get away from the bookie's radar again. So again, if you're just betting on sport and you're only turning over your bonus bets on sport, non-favorite like Tom said, you become a little bit more obvious. Whereas if you're betting on a Saturday and there's hundreds of thousands, if maybe even 1 million too, people betting on these apps across all the betting companies, you suddenly become someone who is just blending in. So you can turn your bonus bet over on a horse race at 80% because every Tom, Dick and Harry is betting on that same race. The same goes with the cash bets. You can stay off the radar by using Betfair because you're backing and you're laying, you're not gambling, and now the bookie just sees the back bet and they see you as someone who is not abusing their promotions. All of a sudden you become a customer that they can afford to have and you keep your promotions open. You can use Betfair as well to make money through other methods where you can use the horse promotion second and third, you can back lay, you can create profitable outcomes there. There's a video on our YouTube about this, a 1-hour tutorial, but there's all different ways where you can use Betfair to your advantage. But in essence, the key thing you need to understand is Betfair don't care if you win or lose. They are a company which operate off commission. So let's just say if you were to place a bet on an event, a horse race in Victoria, currently the commission is 7%. So if you were to make $100 on that race, Betfair charge a commission for you to place that bet and win, and they will take $7 off you after that race results. That's how they make money. They don't care if you win, lose, draw. They just make money off commission of the market. People betting against each other, it's like eBay. eBay is an exchange, they don't sell anything themselves. Buyer, seller, eBay takes commission. Same thing with Betfair. Backer, layer, commission, that's how they operate. They don't care, they'll never ban you. Betfair is a massively useful tool for match bettors, and especially advanced match bettors, and it's a game changer to be able to use horse racing to your advantage once you understand how to use Betfair.
Yeah, sick, well explained. I think now we've touched on a lot of the basics of match betting. We've also dived into kind of some more intermediate kind of level questions, I would say. We're bringing people along for the ride. For those that are match betting to a higher level right now, or they want to know where they get to in the future, or what does it look like, what does the landscape look like as I grow in my match betting operation, or even for people that are deep into it now. If you know what you're doing match betting, you've got a good understanding of the skills, the techniques, the ways in which you can make money. What are the best bookies currently in this space?
The best bookie by far, funnily enough for the gambler and for the match bettor, is the most known one, Sportsbet. Why Sportsbet is so lucrative is because they offer an enormous amount of promotions, which for a match bettor are super profitable on both sport and racing, but they also have a low tendency to promo ban you. I would say they'd be top 2 least likely to ban you, which means that you obviously are going to get more life out of your accounts, be able to make more money. Of course, they still do ban if you were to go and abuse them and make enormous amounts of money. They can flag their algorithms and turn you off. But Sportsbet would be the obvious one. They are also the most convenient, most appealing. They have the coolest features, they have the coolest ads, they're the most fun, easiest to use. That's why if you asked any gambler, 95% of people who place bets would have a Sportsbet account, maybe more. And the majority of their bets, I would say, would be on Sportsbet. Sportsbet has around 50% of the market share in Australia. So they're essentially not in control, but they govern what promotions are happening at the moment. If they say that we're going to start using more sport promotions, you'll find the other bookies will copy them. Tab is another one that is really lucrative as well. They also are a lower tendency to promo ban you. Again, this doesn't mean get comfortable, but they offer an enormous amount of promos on sport and racing. Then you've got companies like PointsBet, a little bit smaller than Sportsbet and Tab. You've got companies like Bettor and also Neds and Ladbrokes, which a lot of you will already know. The reasons why these bookmakers are easier and more lucrative to use is because they are bigger, they have more money behind them, and therefore they can offer more promotions. When you start getting into the smaller bookies, you'll find that they can be quite useful and profitable, but if you were to win a bet, for example, and they don't like the way you place a single bet, some guy in the office is going to be like, fuck, this guy's risky as, turn him off straight away, like you said before. So you can still use these smaller bookies, but you need to be really tactical and you need to know exactly how to use them, otherwise they won't last for you. But being able to get the bigger ones, use them a little bit more, spread the load as you go down, understand how each one works. Once you combine them all together, you said what's the best one? Those are the 5 that are the best. There might be some other ones in there, but it's not about just using them. It's about knowing how to use a lot more of them so that you can keep taking money off them in a conservative way.
I guess to follow on from that then, we obviously have identified that there's probably like a big 5 for the reasons that you've just touched on, but what you just said towards the end is elite. It's not so much about the best bookie, but I think what's more important is what are the best promos? Like what are the most lucrative promos? What are we seeing right now that if you are matched betting, you should be taking advantage of?
The 2 that come to mind, and we'll split this into sport and racing, is the 2nd and 3rd bonus back from the horse racing. So I spoke about this earlier. Betting companies will give you a bonus bet back if your horse comes 2nd or 3rd if you place a win bet on that horse. So if I place a bet on a horse to win and it has a promotion attached to it and I put my $50 on it and it loses, Bookmaker says, hey, JP, yep, you lost your $50, $50 bonus bet in your account. They don't say that, they just give it to you. Now, what I'm gonna do with that bonus bet, gamblers, it's there because they want the gambler to then go and gamble that bonus on a bigger result, lose that as well, and then get more addicted. They've placed 2 bets now and they've lost both, or they might have got close in the second one, they go again, they start putting their own money in. For a match better, you can create an outcome where you essentially are reducing your risk or downside because now your bonus bet has recouped some of the money that you lost on the bet in the first place. So instead of losing $50, for example, if your horse comes 2nd or 3rd, you now, if you turn that bonus over at 60%, have lost $20 because you've recouped 30. Or if you turn the bonus over at 80%, which you can do on horse racing with Betfair, you've now only lost 10. Now, all of a sudden, your upside or your win amount hasn't been capped because you could have won that bet. That this is talking about if you actually just backed without hedging. You could have won that bet, but you also have reduced your risk down. That is a really good promo. However, it's not the best promo. The best promo right now, the most lucrative in the market for match bettors, but funnily enough, it is also the one that's printing money for the bookmakers because so many people are addicted to this behavior, is the same game multi bonus back guaranteed promotion from Sportsbet, and now other bookies are doing it as well.
Tab, Ladbrokes, Bettor,
literally following.
Yeah.
So why that's so lucrative is because the promotion is, I'll explain the promotion. So if you place a same game multi, which everyone should know it's a multi within a same game, every outcome has to win. If it doesn't, you lose, right? Every single leg, you select 2, 3, 5 legs, whatever, in the same event, and they all have to win. If they don't, you lose. The promotion is if you place a 2 leg, so 2 outcome, same game multi, we will give you a guaranteed bonus bet up to $50 if your bet loses. So I know that if I put $50 on any 2 outcomes and they lose, I'm gonna have $50 bonus bet in my account. We just said that a bonus bet turning over at 80% would be $40 back. So I'm only going to lose a maximum of $10. That is my capped risk. I cannot risk more than that, assuming I turn the bonus over. If I gamble the bonus, I lose my edge. Now, I can then go into a position where my $50 bet can win, but I can only lose $10. So over the long run, I'm not going to go into the odds that you would select here or anything like that, but you now have created an outcome where you are losing way, way less. You've essentially cut your risk in 5. Now your risk is a 1/5 of what it was, and your potential to win is still the same. So all of a sudden, this is creating something called a positive expected value outcome, where in the long run, if you consistently stake the same and you turn your bonus over with that concept, you cannot lose money in the long term. And that is the most lucrative promotion right now. So one that's really hard to grasp is because a lot of gamblers out there will take that promotion and then gamble the bonus, which is exactly why the promotion exists. Because I love this concept and I think it's so fascinating, is Sportsbet know that no matter what, you have to bet twice. Now, betting twice increases your chance of becoming addicted. If you do something once, you're less likely to become addicted. If you do something twice, more likely to become a habit, more likely to become addiction. People will be like, how does it guarantee twice? If I win the bet, that doesn't guarantee that I'm gonna bet twice. If you put $50 on something and it's paying $5, you're gonna get back $250, you've made $200. I can almost guarantee that most gamblers are gonna bet again. Or you're gonna have 200 in the account and you're still on the app and you're either gonna withdraw it or, hey, fuck, I made $200, I may as well have another crack. 2 bets, more addicted, you're now gonna chase a bigger win next time potentially. That's just how it works, that's the psychology of it. Unless you get off the app and forget about it, you're gonna turn your bonus over, you're gonna place the bonus bet. My favorite part about this is most of the time these are on matches that might happen the night of and you forgot that you had the bonus bet. So next day you log into your app and you sign in, you forgot you lost your $50, you have a $50 bonus bet in there and you think, fuck, it's Christmas. I'm gonna go put this on whatever and try and turn it into $1,000. You've now lost your 50, you've forgotten you lost your 50, you think it's a free bet because you didn't connect the dots there, and now you've gone and gambled that again. So there's your 2 bets, you've lost your 50, you've lost your bonus bets, that's why Sportsbet give them to you, but as a match bettor, you're simply strategically using that promotion to put yourself in a position where you can win a certain amount, and then every time you don't win, you just cash that $40 profit back in your pocket, so you only lose $10.
I think a really easy way to explain why that promotion, guaranteed bonus back, you actually can see that guaranteed bonus back on horse racing as well, but it's a lot rarer. But the easiest way to explain that to someone who potentially doesn't understand bonus bet turnover, who potentially is still grasping with the concept, yeah, but I'm still losing my money. How does getting the bonus bet back, how does that help me? Think of a situation where somebody every single weekend puts their spare $100 into their sports bet account, right? And they only bet on these promotions where you guarantee getting a bonus bet back. So they're only doing these same game multis on the AFL and NRL. If that person bet the $100 and at the end of every weekend when they bet, their $100 goes to zero. We know this happens over and over again. There'll be people listening to this going, yeah, that's exactly what I do. I give myself $100, I try and make some money, but more often than not, it goes to zero. In the scenario where that exact same person is betting on the exact same bets using that promotion, and at the end of the weekend, they lose their $100, but instead of betting the $100 of bonuses that they get, they finish the weekend with $100 of bonuses in their sports bet account. If you then use the basic methods to turn that $100 of bonus bets into $60 or $80, what happens is next weekend, instead of having to put $100 back into your account, you're gonna already have $60 or $80 in your account, which means you only have to put $20 into your account to get it back up to $100 to do the exact same thing again next weekend. So you're already $80 better off because you left $80 in your bank account or $80 in your back pocket. What will then happen again is say you do the exact same thing next weekend and you bet and your $100 goes to zero, but we only added $20, so we still had $80 in our pocket. Your $100 goes to zero again, and at the end of the weekend, you've still got $100 of bonuses. If you do the same thing again and turn that $100 of bonuses back into $80, again, next weekend, you do the same thing and you top up your account $20, so you got $100 in your sports bet account to bet again. Over 2 weeks, instead of putting $200 into your account to keep doing the exact same betting, you've only put $40 in, which means you're $160 better off within 2 weeks, placing the same bets, using the same promotions, betting on the same games. And I think people that are betting for fun can still have their bet for fun if they want to, but you just make a small tweak in what you do with your bonus bets and you're already $160 better off placing the exact same bets. And I think that that's a concept that a lot of people fail to grasp, or they think it's boring. It's boring, man, you have to turn your bonus bet over. Yeah, that's boring because you're not gambling your bonus bet, but you're still placing the exact same cash bets, you're still getting the same thrill of the exact same bets that you're placing, but all you're doing is you're losing less money. I just said you're $160 better off in 2 weeks. If you do that over a whole year and every single week you're $80 better off because you're turning the bonuses over and you're only letting yourself lose $100 cash, you end up putting $4.5 grand or leaving $4.5 grand in your pocket. That's 2 weeks in Bali. And you don't have to change any of the betting that you're currently doing. And I just think if people understood that a little bit more and realized that it wasn't, it's not very complex, it doesn't take a whole lot of time, it's not removing the fun aspect of gambling because you are still gambling on that initial bet where you're guaranteed to get a bonus bet back, people would have so much more money. And I think, I would like people to listen to that and not go, oh fuck, these guys are so boring, they're no fun at parties, and just go, all right, that guy just gave me a proven way in which I can place the exact same bets next weekend, but I won't lose the $100. I'll only lose 20, and I could still even have the wins that I'm trying to have anyway, and then I wouldn't even be losing money. You might even, if you lose 5 grand for the whole year, and then you turn that into losing 1 grand for the whole year, but along the way, you might collect $1,000 worth of wins across 50 weeks, whatever, you might hit a few multis, whatever. As long as you don't gamble the bonuses, you might even get yourself in a position where at the end of the year, you make a small profit from your betting. Just simply because the edge that you get from converting those bonuses back into real cash and not gambling again is so big that even a punter that has no idea what they're doing can start turning a profit. And I think that's a concept that a lot of people fail to grasp, because the second that they hear us say, turn your bonus bet over, they go, oh, fucking, this is so boring. But you can place the same bets on the same markets. You can watch the game. You can ride it with your mates. You can go to the pub. If you want to do all these things that make gambling fun, do it. But when you get the bonus bet, just don't buy into the rubbish that you were suggesting. Bet it again or try and win massive. Just convert it, put the money back in your pocket, and you can do the same thing every other weekend and you're 80% better off. You just save yourself or make yourself a fuck ton of money.
They know this exists, right? But barely anyone does what you said. If everyone did what you just said, they wouldn't be able to offer that promotion, right? The reality is, people are going to watch this. There are people that are going to go and do it now. But there are people going to go watch this now and still not do it. Why do you think people are still doing that after they know this exists?
I'm not sure. Like, you'd have to be, without being like rude, you have to be pretty stupid to just gamble the bonus. I think if you actually
But you can potentially win. You could potentially win a lot more than 80%. Is that why?
Well, that's exciting for sure. But the reality of that situation is you're not going to win. Like, you aren't winning, because if you're watching this and you've been punting for 5 years and you're still punting, you haven't had the win that changed your life, that you were never going to punt again after having it. All you've done is you've just got yourself into a cycle where you've probably lost tens of, if not bordering on hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's what happens to everybody. So I'm going to take the approach that most people don't know that this exists and don't understand it in the way in which I've just explained it, where it isn't actually boring and it doesn't stop you from betting or doing the things that you consider fun. And I understand that aspect of it. I used to gamble. Like, I probably, if I went to the races, and I haven't been for 4 years, I probably would bet on a horse. I understand that there is an added level of excitement, and I understand that there is entertainment value in gambling if it's done in a scenario where it's not going to fucking cook you in the long term. Now, for most people it will, because that scenario that I've just described, where it does add that little added entertainment value, or it's a bit of fun with your mates, or you're at the races, or you're at the game, whatever, that's fine. But when it becomes not that is when you're sitting at home on Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday night, and you're betting on every single game for fun and for entertainment, but it's just you and you're just sitting there, and it's just this habit that just continues over and over again that's literally cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're not having fun because you're losing money and you're sitting there on your own, and it's not social. As I said, there are times where it is social and it is fun. I don't sit here going, never gamble, gambling's fucked, but gambling is fucked because of what it teaches or encourages people to do without them thinking. So if there are people that listen to this and after the explanation of, like, you can still place the same bets and you just lose 20% of what you're going to lose instead of 100%, the only reason that they would keep doing that is just either pure ego, because they just want to win massive. They either hate me, but they probably don't know me, so I don't know why they would do that. Or they're like, it's just pure stupidity. Like, it actually is stupidity, because you're openly admitting to the fact that, yes, I will lose money. I will lose more money than I need to lose, but you're not having any more fun. So I actually don't have a logical explanation as to why someone would do that. It just has to simply be ego, hatred, or chasing this fanciful massive win that everybody that's gambling knows is never going to actually come when they sit back and fully think about what they're doing. So I can't give you a logical explanation as to why. I guess the one other thing which is sad is just the bookies have such a grip on punters' mindsets, habits, attitudes, whatever. Like, the gambling culture of Australia is literally to celebrate and joke about, like, losing your paycheck or rinsing yourself at the pub or whatever. And, like, I think as you step back and realize how fucking sad that is, maybe people would change the way that they think about it. Like, you go to pretty much any other country in the whole world and it is not like this at all.
They fully laugh at Australia.
Fully, because it's ridiculous. But when you're in your own bubble and you're not really going anywhere and you're not doing anything else and everyone else that's around you's doing it, you look stupid, JP, because you're not doing this. You're not going to the pub. No, I'm serious. You don't go to the pub, you don't get hammered, you don't gamble half of your paycheck away, so you are a loser. Is basically the culture of Australia. Whereas if you say that anywhere else, The guy doing what everyone else is doing right now, gambling away, getting rinsed every weekend, fucking hating their job on Monday, they are the losers. But for whatever reason, mainly because of the way the bookies have set this up, and it's genius, is they've convinced everybody that losing is normal. Not only have they convinced everyone that losing is normal, they've convinced everyone that losing is fun and cool. So they just go, give away their money. I'm a mad dog. I'm so cool. I've lost all my money. I'm gonna go work my job that I hate again on Monday. But on the weekend when I'm getting rinsed and I'm betting all my money and I'm doing all this shit that is cool, I'm a fucking legend. And then I'm just gonna jump on TikTok later and fucking rinse JP because I hate myself. But like, that's a long bow that I've just drawn there.
Hey there, sorry to interrupt. Just a reminder, if you haven't yet done our free course, you're gonna find the link to that in the description of this video. That is your best place to start your match betting journey. We're gonna show you exactly how you can make your first $1,000 completely risk-free. But from there is the next most crucial step. Most people who get the free course done don't act fast, but the ones who do and they get shit done, they book a free call in, they take action within 48 hours, they're always the ones who end up making 10, 20, 50, 100K plus in their first 12 months with us. If that's you, make sure you don't sleep on this match betting opportunity and you take action after watching the rest of this video. Anyway, let's get back to it.
But the whole point is like, back to the point, I can't think of a logical reason why if you stood back and thought about what you were doing, if you could do the exact same thing and lose 80% less than you are losing right now to have the exact same amount of fun, to place the same bets, to do the same shit, I just can't give you one reason why you wouldn't do that.
When you actually stop and think, I agree. I think a lot of people, as I said before, don't actually think about what they're doing. But now that you've put it like that, I think if you've listened to that, take the advice for your sake, put the money back in your pocket. I think the answer as well comes back to foresight and the ability to see long term. Because in a couple of examples there, at the start of this podcast, if you want to call it that, we said people always say, hey, I don't want to make $25 at CBF. I want to make fucking 500. Like, it's not worth my times. I don't want to do that. If you pile up the $25, $80, $60, $40 wins, they end up making you tens of thousands of dollars over the long term, right? We've both made over $300,000 from match betting doing exactly that. We had the foresight to be able to look long term and take this and make money. Not gloating, that's just the reality of compounding wins over time. What you mentioned there as well, you said people losing hundreds of thousands of dollars once they get addicted to gambling. Do you think that's extreme? Because a lot of people who hear that, they can't relate to losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, so they therefore think it's not going to be them. They might be sitting there at 18 years old and they say, I'm just putting $5, just a bit of fun. What would you say to a person just starting out who can't yet see, one, the long-term profits that you can make from match betting, and two, the long-term enormous amounts of losses that you can see from gambling over the long term?
Yeah, well, the hundreds of thousands of dollars comment is just from speaking to literally thousands of people through our DMs.
We've seen millions.
On free calls, of course, but it's just basic math really when you think about it. If you lose $100 a week on average for 50 weeks of the year, I'll give you a couple of weeks off, or maybe you have a couple of weeks where whatever. You lose $5,000 a year, which is $100 a week, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of money. People would have 50, $100 a bet. But let's just say you lose $100 a week for 1 year. That's $5,000. You start betting when you're 18 and you're still betting when you're 38 or when you're 40. Think about every 40-year-old you know that's currently betting. They probably started when they're 18. If they've lost on average $100 a week until they turn 40, they've already lost $100,000. Like, that's $100,000 down the drain. And are they gonna stop at 40? Probably not. So when they're 60, they've lost another $100,000 from losing $100 a week. Now, this is also based on the assumption that the whole time they never bet more. What we see happening is when you're 18, your standard bet is $5. My standard bet was $5 because you don't have any money. So you don't have a whole lot to bet. Even if you wanted to bet more, you don't have access to it. But then you finish uni or you start working more, and then because you're making more, you actually have $100 left over every week. So you're happy to bet 50. So your bet went from 5, maybe it goes to 20, then it goes to 50. What happens when you start betting 50 is if you have a few wins when you're betting 50 and your $50 at $3 is $150 back, the next time you go to bet, there's no world where you can then just go and have $10 on something at $3 to get $30 back, because you've done it before with 50 and you got 150 back, you made $100. So what happens is as you make more, you bet more. And as you bet more, your wins, I say wins in quotations, the winning bets that you place pay out more. And then what happens is you are betting more often, so that the habit becomes more and more and more ingrained in you. You're making more money, so then you just by default have more money left over from your living expenses, and then you bet more money. Then when you start betting more money, your wins become larger. Again, they are wins, as in winning transactions, but in the long term, you're going to be losing. So you're betting more often, you're betting more money because you have more money, your bets become bigger. So that $100 a week, for some people, they might bet $100 a bet. And then if you're betting $100 a bet, you might be losing $200 a week. You lose $200 a week for a year, you lose 10 grand, you lose 10 grand for 10 years, so you lose 10 grand a year. From 20 to 30, you've already lost 100 grand. There's your house deposit. There's 2 house deposits. There's like, what is that, 3 years in Europe. Like, the point is, the same way it's not easy to see, like the reverse side of that is, hey, if you do match betting for 2 years, you'll make 100 grand. Fuck, 2 years. Like it's hard to see that far down the line. And again, like you said, stacking those $20 or $30 wins over and over again, it's very hard to just sit back straight away. Oh, I didn't do it. I don't think you did it. Like, it's very hard to just sit back straight away and go, oh yeah, if I make 20 bucks every single time, this is a piss take now. I'm just gonna do this for 5 years, I'll make 200K. There's not many people that think like that. Even the same as like losing weight, going to the gym, all the other things I just spoke about. Like, because you don't get the results instantly, it's very, very hard to understand where you would be in 2 years' time. So because you don't lose thousands of dollars instantly, it's hard to grasp the idea that like in 2 years' time, I would have actually lost 20K. And then if you fast forward to 2 years' time and ask yourself, would I rather have 20K extra in my bank account, or would I rather have placed all these bets at the pub every Saturday that I did for all the 50 Saturdays? I would say most people would rather have the 20 grand. So if you have the foresight to understand that even if you do this 1/10 of the amount of time that you do it, or you turn your bonuses over and recoup 80% of what you're betting, the long-term benefits of doing that are massive. And for a lot of people, once they discover matched betting, I was gonna ask you a question, and I will now, but a lot of the time, once people can grasp the understanding of match betting or being patient or building something or working towards the long term with anything that they do, those things that you used to do for short-term gains, knowing that it will destroy you in the long term, they actually are harder for you to do. If you get yourself into really good shape or you become an absolute beast in the gym, you used to be able to just go through the drive-through, hammer a Big Mac, hammer whatever, because it's like, oh, whatever, it's just like one thing. But once you've worked hard to get yourself into a position where you've denied that for a while, or you've seen the benefits of not doing that, it's harder to then jump back in to do that. If you go make 100 grand from match betting and you've been patient and disciplined and consistent for 2 years, the likelihood that you're wanting to go and have a $50 bet on something to win 200 bucks, you don't even look at the $200 to win. You go, no, I've busted my ass to make 100K. Why would I risk 50 bucks? So that change in attitude and mindset comes from just doing it over and over and over again. So I agree that it would be very hard to see, oh, I'm not gonna lose 100K, because you're not gonna lose 100K in your first year or your first 50 bets. It's also very hard to see, oh, I'm not gonna make 50K from match betting because this bet makes me $20. So how the fuck am I gonna make 50K? But you just have to look at it as a more of a long-term thing. How many people do you think, we had someone rinse us on the weekend for this, but also just like diving into this concept, how many people do you think would start match betting, become quite good at match betting, and then because they've never bet before, or they're exposed to bookmakers, or they're using, they're placing bets, how many of these people do you think would then become addicted to gambling because we've introduced them to making money from betting?
Yeah, good question. I think I won't have the numbers, but I'm going to make an estimate. Obviously, we don't know how to measure this, but using anecdotal evidence and the ability to see what we see through our DMs, through our community, if you're talking about people who have actually joined our platinum community and have been educated around mindset, around the foundations of how to think, around the psychology of managing your emotions, around the structure of bankroll management, around the explanations around edge and the things that you need to do to become a successful match bettor, to think long term, to stay disciplined. All of these things are going to massively increase your chances of being successful and then staying successful. However, there are people for sure that see content about match betting online and then they go on a betting company's app and then they become addicted to gambling. 100% that would happen, right? Let's not sit here and think we're fucking kings who have no negative influence at all. But what I will say is that the positives are going to 100x outweigh, or even 1000x outweigh the negatives. And if we have 1,000 people that come across match betting and the education that we provide, I would confidently say with almost full certainty that 990 of them are going to be better off, which is more than, that's 99%. So if 1% of people end up bad, I'm happy, as bad as this sounds, for that to happen if 990 people out of 1,000 are going to be better off. Because if more education like this existed, all of a sudden there would be less gambling and less addiction and less problems in Australia when it comes to gambling. Simple as that. So I don't want to pump our service because this is where it gets people just start not listening once this happens. But our point of difference and our DNA from day one has been the education around how to think and the foundations around the emotional control and the staking and the money management from absolute day one. If you don't have the ability to change your mindset, if you don't have a good mindset with match betting, you will not succeed. Like you literally will end up gambling straight up. And we've seen people come from other places that they've learned match betting from, not shit canning the other services, but they just came across match betting, learned how to make money, made 2,000, got their accounts banned, made 5,000, got more accounts banned, made 10 grand, got even more accounts banned, can't bet anymore on promotions, then just kept trying to chase more money from the ways in which they were making money before because they weren't taught and they weren't thinking properly around the long term. They were just trying to make as much money as they can. That's flawed. They then have issues with their dopamine because they then start trying to chase bigger and bigger wins, and then all of a sudden you're back to gambling again. That 100% happens, but I know for a fact, and you can ask anyone in our community, that the mindset change is so powerful, not just because they're gonna make more money, but because they can then sustain it and not gamble and go back to it. Because I've come from this as well. I used to gamble. I used to gamble $5, $10 when I was 18, 19, 20. I even lost $1,000 twice on a bet. On my 21st birthday, I put $1,000 on an AFL team. They lost. I tried to make $100 risking $1,000. They lost. Minus $1,000. Got PTSD for 9 months. Then I came across match betting and I didn't ever look at betting industry the same way again because I knew, why the fuck would I gamble when I can just do this? For most people, they will have that reality check. And in the long run, once you see this, it's like you can't unsee it. It's like once you see the way in which you can make money, it is very unlikely that you'll want to keep doing that gambling stuff again if you are someone who isn't high level of addiction. Obviously there are people come to us with addiction, we tell them, brother, don't do match betting. Stop your losing, even go on fucking BetStop. This is not for you. We have those people and we have to be responsible for those people if they come to us. We're not negligent and be like, hey bro, learn match betting, do this. It's like, if they have signs that we can identify, latest, bro, don't do match betting, don't sign up, go on BetStop. Recommendations have been there. Very rare, but it happens. Not sure if that answers your question.
No, that was good. You probably briefly touched on it then. Maybe more advanced match bettors who kind of end their journey or don't understand how they can prolong their journey. But what are some of the common mistakes that advanced match bettors do make?
Advanced match bettors or rookie match bettors?
No, advanced.
Advanced.
Yeah. I would say an advanced match bettor, if you can make 1 to 2K a month, you're going to be like comfortably, you're sitting above 80 to 90% of match bettors in the space.
The first thing I'll say to that is a lot of people come to us that aren't yet in a community and they'll say, I'm making 2,000 a month. But then you ask them how long they've been doing that for, and they've been doing it for 8 weeks. And they're making money for sure, but they don't yet know that their accounts are gonna get fully destroyed within, I would say with full certainty, majority of their bookies will be gone within 6 months. Now, again, that might not be an issue because they've made 15, 20K. But then what happens is they don't know what to do next. And I guess their mistakes for that example is they don't know how to sustain accounts and they think that getting banned is fully normal and it should happen within a couple of weeks and it's not possible to sustain accounts. They think that just doing the basics where you can just do, for example, a little tip that a lot of services do as a sole defense is for every promo bet you place, you've got to place a non-promo bet, and you should do that with equal stake and equal amount of bets. And if you do that, you'll reduce your chance of getting banned. In theory, that's going to help, but it's not the sole thing that you should be doing. And as we spoke about before, there are smaller bookies where you can look into the type of bets, the patterns, the timing of your bets, the order of your bets. There are 100 different scenarios that you need to think of or factors that you can apply. Sustainability in defense is the biggest thing that I think a lot of advanced match bettors don't understand. And then another thing would be advanced match bettors. If you're making 2K a month, you're most likely using a lot of the promotions in the right way. You're taking the expected value for sure off the same game multi promos, the horse promos, but you might be lacking in a certain way in which you turn a bonus over. You might only be turning, I've seen people who are making 2-3K a month and they're still turning over their bonuses using two-way Dutching. at 60%, it's like, man, if you turned over your bonuses on horse racing, you'd be netting an extra $1,000 to $1,500 a month. Things like that, or they're leaking money in non-promo. Like, there's 100 different things that I could mention. I don't know if you have any other ones that I haven't mentioned, but they're 3 that I can think of. I mean, another one that I can come to think of is the fact that a few bans might happen, and then you start to think about maybe using a friend's account, and this is what people try and do on their own, and then they might just try and open up an account with the wrong details, or it's linked to your email address or someone's card or whatever, and then you get yourself in trouble. And this is what people do because they don't know what else to do, and they got their accounts banned super fast, and then they end up getting their money stuck, like I said at the start. Then they lose 2-3K because the book is holding it, they don't know what to do. These are some of the more advanced things that we sometimes come across in the DMs.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a mistake, but I would say that's something we see quite often, especially if you've, like you just touched on, they come from a background where they've made a bit of money already. I would say it's not a mistake, but maybe a flawed way of thinking is because they've made X amount without being in a community or without being in service or without anyone else helping them, they assume that they are the top level, or they assume that they've learned everything that you can learn, or they know everything that they can know. And they often look at services, not just ours, it would be a bunch of different services out there, and they would go, oh, I don't need to pay this, or I don't need to be in there because I already got to this level on my own. The flaw in that thinking is if there are 1,700 people in a community, which is ours, but there might be thousands in other communities as well, who are already at your level, at a higher level, or coming up to your level, there isn't a world where if you're surrounded by all of them and you're doing the same things or learning the same things or making more money from different ways, that they're not going to share with you or advance your learning or get you to the next level faster. And I think a lot of people who have already started match betting and have made some money from match betting, they limit how quickly they can grow and the levels that they can get to because they got to a certain level on their own, which is still elite. Those are the people that, because they got there on their own, if they got there with assistance or were assisted in the next step or the next 5 steps, they will 20x where they're about to go because they already got to a certain level that a lot of people would never do on their own. And those people very, very often hold themselves back or won't part with their money because they worked so fucking hard on their own to get to the position where they've made that money that they can't see that if I part with X amount of money, it's probably going to accelerate my growth. Plus it'll confirm the things that I already know and maybe add a few things that I don't know. So it's not a mistake, but I think it's a flawed way in thinking. I personally, me and you speak about this, like I would have done the exact same thing that they're doing. Although I did learn match betting from joining a service and giving up a part of my profits to learn it, I didn't know that that was going to happen, but that is what I did. So I guess maybe I still had an ability to see some upside in giving away some equity in my operation to understand what's going on and to make money. But a lot of people that get themselves to a really solid level of match betting on their own think they know more than they do and close themselves off to accelerating getting to the next 5 to 10 levels because they're like, oh, we'll get there. And they might, but if it takes them 12 months to get there and it could have taken them 2, the damage they can do in those additional 10 months that they have where they don't have to make mistakes and learn and work it out on their own, that is the difference between someone that probably goes from 2 to 5 to 6K a month by the end of the 12-month period and someone that goes from 2 that maybe then invests money and goes backwards a little bit in their total profit. But then at the end of it, at the end of the 12 months, they're at 20K months and the other guy's at 5K and they're making 4x what the other guy's making every month. And then it might be like, so the guy that does it on their own, they work up their way up to this level, which is fantastic. Other people just enter at this level, don't have to work out and spend the time and energy and the money and the mistakes and the accounts of this person. And then because they have access to more, they just start growing and growing and growing at a rapid level. And they get to this level faster than this guy, even though this guy might get there on his own. If this guy gets there at month 6 and starts printing at this level at month 6, and this guy gets to that level at month 12 and then starts printing, the difference in that time and the energy and the accounts and the money potentially even lost on learning new methods that it takes to get here, they could have spent a portion of what they'd made to accelerate to get here. And often these people that are already at that level on their own, once they get to here, they go to levels that a lot of these people that get taught and like get shown how to get here can't often get to the levels that the people that can do it on their own can get to. And I think that having seen some of the guys that did get to this level and eventually get over that hurdle and just absolutely dominate, there are hundreds of those guys in our DMs on free calls, would be watching our content going, I already know that JP, why would I join? And those are the exact people that if you joined, you'd go to the moon. And that's the people that we want in our community.
Yeah, so I want to describe those individuals because I think they actually are very similar most of the time. And now there are people outside of these characteristics or stereotypes, but you can agree or you say yes or no to each of these. I'm gonna say 18 to 22 year old, maybe a little bit higher, but most of the time 18 to 22 year old, yes or no?
100%.
Uni student.
Yes.
Mainly for some reason, commerce, finance, mathematics, something in those fields, normally engineering even.
Yeah, that's because I have a theory on that as well. That's because they understand investing and getting ahead early and putting money away, because they understand already the longer term benefits of doing that. Like, that's what they're studying, that's what they're learning, they're built that way. They think about and focus on money a bit more than maybe a nursing student or an art student, because they're surrounded by it. That's what they're learning, that's what they're being taught, and they understand the compounding nature of investing, and they're learning about different investments and the market, and so they can see the upside of doing that. So I 100% agree it's them.
You were a commerce student as well, and you had the same traits, I would say, for most of your 20s.
For sure, but that's like, I've been there and been surrounded by it, and you learn about it, and you're thinking about money and how can you get ahead. So I know exactly what they're thinking. That's why they end up being elite match bettors.
Yeah, and I think that the final one is high initiative. So they can, like you said, they work shit out on their own, and then they go through things really fast and they progress really fast on their own. And I would say the final one is curiosity. So they will get exposed to something or get taught something or get shown something. Now, most people, when they get shown something, they don't act on it fast. These people, they see it, act. And I was like this, and this is why I think I've been really good at most things that I try, is that as soon as I learn it, I can implement it straight away. And these are the traits of the best match bettors in our community. High initiative, young, want to get shit done. And like you said, once you add a little bit of support, coaching, structure, things that they don't know, they go from here to here so fast. Letting the other person that needs the help all the time, they can't get to those levels.
And the people would probably be going, well, why do they have to be young? The reason that often they're young is they're living at home, they've got spare cash, they don't have any expenses, they don't have any liabilities, they don't have to spend time cooking and going, all they have is they wake up, they go to uni or they go to their trade, whatever it is, and then they come home and they bank their money and they don't have to spend any of their money, so they have spare money. The finance guys you're referring to, because they have spare money, these are the guys that are investing or they're trying crypto or they're getting into the S&P 500 and they're doing all these things because they have the spare cash. The ones that come across match betting, they work it out on their own, they're curious, they try another method, they realize it works, then they go, fuck, I've also got 10 grand saved up and I just know that I made 1,000 with 1,000. Could I make 10,000 with 10,000? They start doing it, fuck, I actually can. And then that's how they discover it and work it out, and then they get to that level where they're really competent and can go and make 10, 15, 20K in their first 12 months of doing it. And they can bank all of it because they don't have any expenses. And those are the guys that we see that, where are you at? Oh, I've made 20K, I've got a bankroll 50K because I'm still working part-time and I have no expenses and I don't go out all that often on the weekend. Like, those are the guys that just turn into full-blown beasts.
Yeah, and it can grow really fast. I've been talking to an interviewed him, podcast guy, 18 years old. He started with 2K, and a lot of the best members, they only start with 1,000, 2,000, maybe a little bit more if they're a little bit older. They're 21, they come across it a bit older, 10K. There's a guy in the DMs last night, 10K at 18 years old. Like, where the fuck has he saved that from? If I had 10K at 18, it would have been like crazy. Like, not many 18-year-olds have 10K, but they start with 2 or 1 and just grows. And once you get to 3 and then 5 and then 10, like, man, the world is literally your oyster once you become really competent and you have the bankroll behind you. It definitely grows really fast.
Well done on getting to the end of that. I hope you learned a shit ton about match betting. It's the first time we've ever done a full sit down Q&A like that. We'll do more of them in the future. If you like this video, give it a like. However, I just wanted to remind you, if you're sitting there and you're not yet taking advantage of match betting, specifically if you're not making at least 10,000 to 20,000 per year off match betting, think about whether you would want that. Because if you do, you should follow 3 steps. Number 1, complete the free course. All 6 videos, 60 minutes, you'll have a roadmap on how to make your first $1,000. Number 2, book a free call. And number 3, join our Platinum community. There's 1,750 plus members at the time of filming in that community. Every single one of those members has decided to invest in themselves, and obviously you get lifelong access. You do get a refund guarantee if you don't make $1,000 in your first 3 months, full refund, and we'll pay you $500 for wasting your time. You get your weekly webinars, you get 20 hours of content, you get all the things we discussed in that podcast just there. What we've noticed though is the members who end up making 10K, 20K, 50K, 100K, 200K in their first 12 months are always the ones who don't take a long time to move from step 1 to step 3. They take action straight away. They either book that free call or they do the free course and they jump straight in. If that's you, get that done. Send us a DM or a text after you finish the free course, because we'll text you. And in that text, just say, I'm ready to take action. And we'll look after you with a little discount code if you want to jump straight into Platinum. Anyway, if you want to keep watching some of our other content, go search on our YouTube. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.